Hello, friends. Welcome. Salo, Mason, happy home. I'm happy to be here with you today on Friday, November 21st, 2025. Next week is Thanksgiving. But what I want to talk to you about today is the AI lie and how I think it's going to affect Trump's agenda. Now, I love Trump. I love our administration. I love America. I love the Constitution. I love our military. I am a very patriotic American, and I would lay my life down for my nation. So I take voting and I take whatever administration is in office at the time very, very, very seriously. And Trump was voted in for a couple of specific reasons. Law and order, because we needed our borders secured. We needed to get the gangs out of our communities. We needed to get crime under control. And that was the primary one. And beefing up and improving on our military, which had gone downhill in the last 15 years or so, and create a more stabilized law and order on our streets and in our military and abroad. That was the primary reason. The other one was to get prices down, because people remembered that when Trump was in office, gas was less than $2 a gallon. We were not paying $8 and $9 for a dozen eggs and so on and so forth. The inflation rate was dramatically low under Trump, and then the second Biden got into office, of course, that skyrocketed to 10 times the amount that it had been. So inflation, getting those prices down, and working on law and order were the primary reasons. Third in line to that is his economic agenda, and of course, cleaning up the swamp, because he had wanted to clear up the swamp, meaning all of the corruption, all of the payouts, all of the lies, the crimes, the insider trading, and just all of the garbage that Congress and Senate have been allowed to do with impunity for decades upon decades. So cleaning up the swamp too. And then comes the economy with regard to jobs and financial growth for individuals, mainly the middle class. The only concern that I have, and I think it's great that he's bringing in all of this money from these nations to bring in these manufacturing, trillions of dollars in manufacturing now. Great. Problem is the last 4 generations behind me are not workers. Donald Trump is almost 80 years old. He comes from a time in history when having a job was life and death for you and your family, where being able to say that I get up and I work 40 hours a week and I do the best I can meant something in our nation. It no longer does. In the onset of internet and AI and technology and all of this stuff, people find that there are easier, lazier ways to earn a living. And they don't want to have to work if they don't have to. It's a sad reality, and I know there's people out there that keep screaming at me, "Oh, my kids aren't lazy. How dare you say that about me and my kids?" I'm not talking about you and your kids. I'm talking about the population mass. And New York City actually proves my point. The people that voted for Mamdani are people in their 20s and 30s, and some in their 40s, but 20s and 30s. Those are 2 of that 4 generation coming up behind me, because he is promising everything for free. And in their pea brains, everything for free equates to, well, I don't need to go to school. I don't need to work because everything's coming to me for free. Why should I have to work? So what's going to happen is if Trump doesn't slow his roll on bringing in all of this manufacturing, he's going to end up becoming the enemy of the international stage, because he's making promises that there are going to be people in America who are going to be clamoring for these jobs, who are going to want to do this work. And there are not. Now, he has high expectations for Americans and the future of Americans. And I know that he believes that every American innately has that work ethic that he does, his dad did, his grandfather did, and that most of us in our age group do. But they don't. And part of it is the fault of the people, and part of it is the fault of the rhetoric, and part of it is the fault of fear, and the fact that these young ones are coming up with parents that didn't have to do much for a living. If you didn't want to work in some societies, you didn't, social constructs in the US, if you didn't want to work, you'd just get pregnant, and then you'd be on WIC, and then you'd be on welfare and SNAP until the kid was 18. By then you'd find yourself another sugar daddy, and you'd be done with it. But and then people are always sue happy. Well, I'm going to slip on this rug at work so that I can get work comp for the rest of my life and never have to work again. The work ethic has been replaced in the American mind with how can I bulk the system? How can I find a way to pay my bills and not have to get up and work? Well, we'll feign injuries. We'll get pregnant for the sake of getting the welfare. And I know these are harsh things, but they're realities. And there are many, many research papers on this, many medical journals, many reputable documentaries out there that are actually talking to these individuals that I am talking about. And they are getting this information from them and from the polls and all of the other things that they got out there. There's a lot of data. Now, you couple that with AI, and AI taking over the role of the human in many aspects of the working force, manufacturing, there's going to be less need for humans. Now, I take classes online for AI, to be an AI translator and to understand how AI can and cannot help in a variety of working scenarios. But this morning I heard a professor from the New York Institution of Technology, and he was saying how AI is not going to take your job. AI can't do this and it can't do that. Well, it can't yet, but trust me, it will. And what's worse is that just last month, Amazon, Target, Microsoft, and about a half a dozen other major global corporations that people rely on those corporations to put food on their table and pay their rents are laying off collectively hundreds of thousands of humans and replacing them with AI. They actually have to, when these companies do this, they have to report to the federal government what we're doing and why we're doing it. And if you make mass layoffs with your corporation, you are responsible for telling the state you're headquartered in and the feds why you're doing that, because it's a huge deal. So they had to get up and speak and report this. Now, with Amazon specifically, the 40,000 jobs that they are going to lay off immediately and replace with AI are white collar, meaning support staff, administrative, clerical, office jobs, those kinds of things, lead workers, supervisory jobs, places that, when those kind of supportive roles. And a lot of people might think, well, the white collar, who cares about them? The blue collar guys, us, working stiffs down here, at least we'll keep our job for now. But it is still a human being who relies on that paycheck, regardless of whether you are answering the phones at the reception desk, or you are delivering the packages, or you are working the assembly lines. or you are sorting, or you are flying the Amazon airplane that delivers your products, it doesn't matter. It will affect you because you will be missing a part of your team, a component to your team that will no longer be there. A human that you can walk up to and say, boss, I'm sorry, my kid's really sick. I need to blow out of here early today. You won't be able to do that to a robot. So AI and robotics are affecting the job market already, and they haven't even really been implemented or talked about. So I'm concerned that when these manufacturers bring in trillions of dollars from overseas, from these other companies, from overseas companies, bring them here to America, make all of these promises to set up these shops because Trump is saying, oh, we're going to fill them with workers and we're going to make you rich. Well, you got to have the workers to fill them with. And I do not see willing participants. Just recently at a conference, an international conference, tech conference, Elon Musk said on stage, I heard it out of his own mouth, that in the future, having a job will be optional. What does that tell you? When the greatest technological mind on earth says that in the next 10 to 20 years, jobs will become optional. Optional means obsolete. I am concerned that Trump is making promises based on his love and his belief that Americans will rush in and take those jobs. Now, granted, I'm sure that some will, but it's going to take several years for these factories to get built and start running, and they're going to need the foreigners from those foreign countries who have already been doing this work at these factories to come here for probably 1 to 5 years to not only set up and establish the company here, the manufacturing plant, but to hire and to train Americans to do it. There's not going to be enough Americans willing to do it. And if we keep having momdamis show up where they say, well, I'll give you everything for free, and I'm going to tax the hell out of every rich person in New York City to do it. Well, the rich people aren't going to tolerate that. They're not going to turn over their taxes to you, you pissant. What they're going to do is they're going to pack up and they're going to go somewhere else. And you're not going to have corporations to tax. And then what are you going to do? Zoran the moron, what are you going to do then? They're going to turn on them. Animals eat their own. But I am concerned in the long term, in the long run, of loyal Americans, patriotic, hardworking Americans who have put their faith and their heart into Trump and his administration and believe that he is going to make this country wealthy. The problem is when we realize that Americans don't want to work, and if we get to a point with AI that people don't have to work, as Musk is predicting, and I think he doesn't talk out of his ass. You got to pay attention to that dude. He is not right in the head, and he makes statements that come to life, so you have got to be very careful with what he says. You have to really think about it. Those companies are going to get pissed. Those factories are going to get shuttered. They're going to move back home. The only way is to ease up on the borders a little bit, lawful entry, and coming up with incentives to make people want to work. So we as a collective society must change our mindset, our behavior. We must change how we manage, regulate, and live our daily lives, because we are teaching 40 years of Americans how to get around the system of having to get up and do a job. I have a 40-hour-a-week job. I have been holding down a paycheck job since I was 13 years old, and I am 62. There have been times in my life where I've had to work 2, 3, and 4 jobs at a time. And I'm not talking easy jobs. I'm talking labor-intensive jobs. Manufacturing, assembly, housekeeping, security, where you're on your feet all the time, and not just administrative positions. This literally, the job I have now is the administrative position that I've had, where you sit at a desk to do your job all day. You don't have to go and do the physical stuff. I've had management jobs where I'd come home exhausted because of all the physicality of it and running around. I have done my fucking time and I want to retire. Unfortunately, I can't because the economy is not on my side at this time. Hopefully, in the future, it will be in the next year or two. Until then, I'm stuck with a ball and chain job, and it's holding me back from being able to do all of the wonderful things that I want to try to do with my life before I drop dead. So I'm mad at Trump about changing that retirement age to 67. Screw you people. You know, when you look at the average age lifespan of an American human being, how many years after 67 do you have with your loved ones? How many years do you have to enjoy the life that you were forced to ball and chain through since you were 13? I'm really pissed about that. But I can't afford to because I won't get enough from my pension. I won't get enough from Social Security. So I'm screwed. Like millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of Americans like me. And I know that he did that because he wanted to keep people in the workforce because he knows he's going to need workers. So I want to retire. I don't want to work because I have been working for almost 60 fucking years. It's my time to retire. So I don't want to not work at a ball and chain job because I'm lazy and I want to play on TikTok all day. I do so because I have done my time. And a lot of us have. So when I voted for him for economic stability, yes, lower prices, higher minimum wage, because when the minimum wage goes up, my pay goes up, even though I make more than that. But you know how that works, cost of living. And because I thought a robust economy would give me the opportunity to retire before 67. Well, it was 65. Now it's 67. So I am feeling a little betrayed. And I want to hear how you're feeling. When Amazon says they are laying off 30 to 40,000 white-collar workers because they are, quote-unquote, replacing them with AI, and the CEO of Amazon actually said this when he was being interviewed about these layoffs. When our employers say, don't worry about it, it's years down the road. No, it's not going to be. You're still going to need humans, like that professor this morning from NYIT. I'm sorry, people, but you're lying. Yes, you're going to need people that can translate AI. You're going to need people that can program AI. You're going to need people that can turn the switch on and off every day to run the robot and maintain the robot and so on. You're going to need humans at some point, but so few of them that I fear if we don't get control over this and just use AI for personal, social, and very tiny, basic little bits of our jobs, we are going to cease to exist as a society. And when you get pushback from like New York City, where all of these youngsters voted this moron in without any shred of evidence or education or data to say, yeah, he can actually do this. They just did it because he was making false promises. Now, they're probably going to turn on themselves, and it's going to be really ugly. And I'm sorry that New York City is going to pay the price. But like I said before, there are 5.1 million registered voters in New York City, and only 2 million came out and voted. So the 3.1 million of you that failed to go to the polls, it is your fault, because not voting is giving a vote to the other party. So you are to blame for what's happening in New York more than the morons that voted for moron, because 3.1 million of you is the majority and you failed to do your solemn duty. But this is the beginning. When you couple moron with AI, it equals no employment, no willing participants. And this could implode on us like a black hole sucking us in. Think about it. Give me your comments. I'd like to know what you think. And until next time, do good and be good.